Hello everyone, that Manga Kid here to do my top 10 manga reads for 2021. The way that I do these videos is that anything on the list has to have been something that I started reading in the year. So it doesn't have to be a new title that came out in 2021. It just has to be something that I started the first volume in 2021. So I do have one honorable mention, which is Haikyuu. I'm not finished it yet, but I started reading the manga in 2021 on the Shonen Jump app, and I have maybe about 60, 70 chapters left or so that I need to read, but greatly enjoyed it. Very interesting characters, fun action sports sequences, and just like it's a fun time. Yeah, and I'm glad that I can just read it on the Shonen Jump app because it's a big investment to buy that many volumes, and I don't really have the space for them. So, yeah. Now, this one is sort of in order. Previous years, it was just like 10 volumes or 10 series, and there wasn't really any particular order. But this one, I do have a bit of an order. Now, if you ask me today versus tomorrow, yesterday, whatever, the order might be slightly different. The number one spot is the number one spot, hands down, by far. Yeah, so 10th one is Takako Shimura's Even Though We're Adults. This is one that I was very excited for when it was announced because I love Takako Shimura, and I was excited about adult romance between two women. This one follows a elementary school teacher who is married, who meets this other young woman at a bar and kind of hooks up with her, and she's now cheated on her husband with this woman that she now can't get out of her head. And then this woman who is not necessarily out and proud as gay, but she has, she's come to terms with her own sexuality within herself, and from what we know about her past, tends to have a habit of falling for straight women or just women who kind of jerk her around for a bit. And so she's very apprehensive about this woman who she finds out is married, and doesn't really know what to do with her feelings. And these two women, despite trying to stay away from each other, can't really get each other off of their mind and continue to bump into each other. And I've read 3 volumes of it, which is what is out currently. I'm not sure when volume 4 comes out, but anyway, and I just really love it. I love Takako Shimura's artwork. I love the way that she writes characters. I think that it's just a very captivating story, and I'm very excited to see where it goes. And it's not a shocker to me that this ended up on my list, because I really like the kind of calming but drama-driven atmosphere that Takako Shimura tends to create with her works. So, yeah. Next up, got a Gekika title, Comics Underground Japan. This is edited by Kevin Quigley, but I believe it is 12? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? Yeah, 12 different mangaka short stories in this. There's all the names. This was just an amazing collection. I love short story collections, and I love Gekika alternative manga, so kind of a match made in heaven. I need to be very careful about what I show from this because it is very violent and very grotesque in a lot of aspects of it. I think that it just shocked me because like this was all stuff that I had really never read anything like it before. Even though I read a lot of Gekika titles, like this was very much like there was some very different creators that I had just never heard of, along with creators that I, know and love and have several works of theirs. And it was just a good eclectic mix of things that I really enjoyed. Yeah, it's not too much else that I can show you. But it was just, and I really enjoyed reading the bios of everybody at the back. It was just a nice way to do it, where it just kind of goes over each creator and a bit about them and, you know, their works. Because obviously this is just a tiny snapshot of their work. Yeah, it was just phenomenal. I really, really enjoyed it. This is one that I had on my list of things that I was like, maybe I'll get that one day. And then I finally just went, you know what am I waiting for? I'm just going to pay what the price is. And, you know, it is what it is. It's not going to go on sale. So might as well just buy it. And I really, really greatly enjoyed it. Next up is Taiyo Matsumoto's Ping Pong. This was released in 2 omnibuses. This is the first of the 2 that Viz released. Not a shocker to me that a Taiyo Matsumoto title ended up on the top 10 list, because I love Taiyo Matsumoto works, and I especially love the more realistic works. And this is a sports manga about ping pong in the amazing, 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 you know, dynamic, kind of fluid movement panel. Like, it's just so cool. And this is about 2 boys who are both very good at ping pong. One is kind of a showboat. He likes to win and likes people to know that he's the best. And then his friend, who's more quiet and reserved and is actually much more talented at ping pong, but he just kind of is okay being in the shadow of his friend who likes the attention. And so when their coach at school on the team kind of amps up the training regiment and kind of gives the quiet friend, more attention, because he sees the potential in him, the kind of braggadocious friend pretty much gives up, because he's not interested in losing. He's not interested in not being the best. And this is a story about these friends who, you know, met originally through their love of ping pong, and now the sport is kind of tearing them apart. We see other schools and other young men trying to make it in this very niche kind of sport, and the trials and tribulations that come along with being, you know, naturally talented or a prodigy versus trying to put in as much hard work as you can and you're not getting the results that you want. It's really, really well done. The artwork is stunning, as is Taiyo Matsumoto's artwork as always. But yeah, it's just a very moving piece with amazing art and really cool action shots of them playing ping pong. And yeah, I do highly recommend reading it if you have not already. I didn't watch I don't think I watched the whole anime back in the day. I watched part of it, and then I don't know what happened. I must have got distracted. But I remembered when this was announced, I remembered enjoying what I had watched of it and wanted to pick it up. So it was a great read. Next up, I've got Don't Toy With Me, Miss Nagatoro. This is by Nanashi. I own the first 5 volumes digitally, and then I think this is the last one that I've read so far, but I do have volume 8 as well. This one is it's just a fun kind of move away from anything really serious, and that's really what I needed this year, was something fun and cute. This one is another teasing kind of genre, where we have our main character who is kind of this artsy, nerdy guy, and I believe he's a second year in high school, and then Nagatoro is, I think, a first year. I feel like she's younger than him. I think she's a first year. He's a second year um, in the art club. And she just kind of comes across him one day when she's with her friends, and I think he's drawing his own manga or something, and then they kind of take it from him and start teasing him about it. The very beginning of the series is very much like, oh, these girls are like fully bullying him and stressing him out, which is not great. It's not fun. But as soon as you kind of get over that part and you're like, okay, like she's teasing him because she likes him, which doesn't make the behavior okay, but it's a fictional manga series, and I'm fine with that. So I just find her to be really, really adorable because she kind of gets caught up in her teasing sometimes, and she goes a bit too far, and then she tries to like backtrack. And I find her face when she like realizes that she's said something that she shouldn't have said, or like, I just find her to be very charming. And I find our main character, despite I think he's supposed to be a boring, nobody dude, but I quite like him. I think he's really cute. And I find their dynamic to be very cute. And it's just something that I've very, very, very much enjoyed reading this year. And despite the bit of a darker teasing tone to it, it does kind of uplift my spirits. I find myself laughing at a lot of the situations these two get into. And it's just fun. It's just fun. And their little blushing faces are so cute. I love the artwork. Yeah, so Don't Toy With Me, Miss Nagatoro is definitely something that brightened my year. Next up, got a single volume, Captivated by You. This is by Yama Wayama. This was a surprise to me. I bought this solely because of the cover art. I knew nothing about it. I happened upon it. It was in a recommended section of my browsing history on chapters where I buy pretty much all my manga, and it happened to pop up, and I went, oh, I love that artwork on the cover. And I thought it was going to be like a psychological thriller situation. It's not. It was a slice of life bordering on boys' love. It was like boys flirting. That was really, really engaging and super fun. And it just completely took me by surprise. There's a little Junji Ito reference in that page there. But the artwork was fantastic. It's like a short story sort of vignette collection. Some of the character, like, it's all the same school. Some of these characters overlap in the stories. But it was just uplifting. It was a surprise to me. It was nothing like what I thought it was going to be, and I had never heard of it before. This is a newer creator, and I'm excited to see more. I really hope we get more of this person's works here as they continue to grow as a mangaka. And yeah, it was just so fun. I do have a video of this, of my impressions of this on my channel if you want to watch that. But honestly, if you like just slice of life, kind of dorky, quirky guys, this is for you. This is a fun series to just read and relax and giggle and just enjoy the kind of almost horror-esque artwork. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Next up, we got Yoshiharu Tsuge's Red Flowers. I was waiting for this one because Drawn and Quarterly has been releasing, this is the second installment of the Yoshiharu Tsuge like compilation collections they're making. The first was The Swamp, which I really, really enjoyed. So I was stoked that this volume was going to be coming out. This, again, I have an alternative manga spotlight on this particular volume, but this is just it was so calming. It was very beautiful. It was very lacking in sexual assault and the misogyny that typically is laced within alternative manga. It just felt very focused on nature and calming small town rural kind of life, and I found it to be really, really beautiful. There's definitely hijinks and ridiculousness, but the artwork is so stunning, and it was funny and charming and calming and relaxing and beautiful, and just like such a fun read. And the stories were all decently different from each other. And then the essay at the back was really great, as always. Always nice to dive deeper into the creator and this particular works compiled in the volume. And I'm interested to see, because the plan is to release more of these. I can't remember how many. I think it was 7 or something like that. I feel like I read that somewhere, but anyway, I'm interested to see the essays, because obviously, normally with alternative manga, there's an essay, normally by Ryan Holmberg, in the back. And because you're reading the volume as a standalone volume, it talks about the creator and their life and, X, Y, Z. There's a pretty standard formula. Whereas with these, obviously you want to go into the particular works that are compiled within the volume, so that's going to be different each time, but it'll be interesting to see what they kind of come out with about Yoshiharu Suge, because he's the same creator every time for each volume, so you don't want to retell the same facts and information about the creator for every single volume, because you're meant to buy all of them and read them all. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see as they progress, what more information they're going to divulge about this creator that they hadn't already in the previous volumes. So anyway, beautiful, beautiful release by Drawn and Quarterly. Excellent, excellent stories, and just really stuck with me this year. The next one I don't have a physical volume of. I read all of Hell's Paradise, Jigokuraku. I read it on the Shonen Jump, technically the website, because it's too violent, I guess, for the app. But if you have the subscription through the app, you can go on Viz's website and read it there. I read it all in almost one sitting, I think, all 12 volumes. It was so good. And that one's the one about Gabimaru, who is I think he's an assassin or something. But anyway, he's killed a lot of people. And him and a bunch of other very violent, dangerous criminals are sent to this island to retrieve the elixir of life or something like that for, I believe, the emperor, or just somebody of importance has sent them over there to do it. They each have a guard person that is kind of watching over them and making sure that they don't try to escape or whatever. If they break the rules of the agreement, basically, their person watching over them will kill them. They all get to this island, and they realize very quickly it is a very dangerous place to be, and that their goal to find this elixir of life in order to basically pardon themselves from all their crimes is going to be a lot more difficult than they thought, and they're kind of all going to work together rather than, the guards just kind of guarding them and, treating them as criminals. They're all going to try and figure out how they can get through this. And Gabimaru just wants to go home and return to his wife and, live a peaceful life. And it's just very charming. And despite, him being somebody who's murdered a bunch of people, you really see the human side of him, and you're yeah, this person, I'm rooting for this person, and I want them to live and be free and not be sentenced to death for their crimes, right? It was just really, really cool. The violence is really excellently drawn. The fighting scenes and everything, it's very graphic, but it's so cool. I really like horror stuff, and So seeing some of the like the really grotesque imagery and how like amazingly intricate it's drawn is just really cool. So I definitely recommend Hell's Paradise. It was an amazing read, and I read, like I said, I think I read almost the entirety of the series in one sitting because I just couldn't put it down. Oh, I remember what happened. You have a limit of 100 chapters that you can read per day, and so I read the 100 chapters in one sitting, and then I had to wait. I had to wait till the next day to be able to read the rest of the series, and that's the only reason I stopped. I would have read the whole thing. But yeah, it was very good. And I don't have the physical volumes. I do think that I will buy the physical volumes at some point because I really, really enjoyed it. And I think I would reread it again. But I just haven't gotten around to it yet. I don't really have much space, and I don't have... if I have money to spend on manga, I'm probably going to buy stuff I haven't read yet at this point in time. But hopefully in the future I'll get my hands on it. Next up, number 3. This is Love Roma by Minoru Toyoda. This is a 5-volume old Del Rey release that I got off eBay. I had seen this in someone else's collection once, like a few years ago, and I didn't know anything about it really. I just remembered this like very strange artwork on the cover of the first volume and went like, what an interesting thing. And so when I saw it on eBay for a decent price, I was like, you know what? Just gonna go for it. Haven't bought much manga this year. I haven't really read much this year. Maybe this will be a good thing to check out. And it was amazing. I am shocked that nobody talks about this, that nobody really seems to have this in their collection, because it is so funny. This is one of the funniest rom-coms that I have read in a long time. It's short and sweet at only 5 volumes. It is incredibly hilarious with the dry humor of our main character. These are middle schoolers, I believe. Pretty sure they're middle schoolers. They could be young-looking high schoolers, actually, now that I think about it. But anyway, students. The story starts out with our main male protagonist professing his love to this girl who is in a different class from him. She has no idea who this guy is, and he's come into her classroom to profess his love to her in front of everybody. And she's like, dude, I don't know you. He's like, you know, you're right. And then he comes back the next day, and he goes, I thought about it. I'm definitely in love with you. I would like to date you. And she's like, I still have no idea who you are. And so he goes, okay, well then let's get to know each other. And he is very much not interested in following any social rules or anything. And she is a bit violent. But they very quickly kind of fall for each other, and it's them navigating a relationship and him trying to be, you know, a good boyfriend to her, and her trying to navigate being in a relationship with somebody that she previously knew nothing about. But she's kind of charmed by him, and it's them kind of like living their life and doing their thing, you know, being in a relationship together and trying to like navigate other people's involvement, because everybody's very invested in their love for each other, because he very publicly, you know, confessed to her, and so everybody's involved and everybody's interested in how this is going to pan out, and he is just he's so deadpan with his humor and his delivery, and it just makes me so happy. I laughed so many times at the bizarre hijinks in this series. It made me smile so much, and again, this year I just needed something to smile about, and this delivered. Love Roma is so good. And if you're looking for something with quirky artwork and really quirky characters in a very mundane, normal situation of just two people dating while they're in school, it's so funny. I already want to reread it because it's hilarious. Next up, number 2. Got another Gekika title, Ebisu Yoshikazu's The Pits of Hell. This one is another one that I had seen this cover so many times and went, what a fascinating looking book that I just want to own. And again, I went, you know what am I waiting for? I'm just going to buy it. And I loved it. This is so violent and so gruesome. It's very, very just out there, bizarre, wacky, seemingly mundane settings turned just violent massacres, because it focuses a lot on like office jobs, just plain old salarymen working, day in, day out at the same mundane thing, and then they just kind of snap. And they either brutally murder someone, usually their boss or a coworker or students or whatever, or, some bizarre things start happening to them. And it's just, I have to be very careful again with what I show here, because it's can get pretty gruesome. This is a safe kind of page, but this one I wanted to savor. Like, as I was reading through, I didn't read this in one sitting like I do mostly with manga, because I just couldn't. I was like, I need to savor this energy, and I need to read this on days that I just need to let loose and let my frustrations out through reading about people who are really, they've had enough of whatever is going on in their lives. And it was just, I will not forget this for a while, and I will definitely reread this. I think that if you're okay with very violent, gruesome imagery, and you are interested in just watching, like, it's basically like those videos, those like pretty satisfying videos of somebody who clearly hates their job and they just quit in a very public way. And you're like, yeah, you go you. This is that, but on like steroids, where the person doesn't just like quit their job, they massacre everybody because they've snapped. And it's just like sarcastic and witty and such dark humor. And I lived for every moment of it. I just loved it. It was great. And number 1, not shocking if you watched my review video of this year, number 1 series that I read this year, Twin Spika by Ko Yaginuma. This is a series that I have wanted for many years. It is very out of print. And I found it on eBay for a very good price. I found the whole series, and I bought it, and I read it, and loved it so much. This is a very sad but beautiful coming-of-age story about a young girl whose dream it is to go to space. She wants to be an astronaut. And in this world, there is a school that you can go to. It's a high school that you go to train to be an astronaut. And so she goes, and she meets a group of other students who she kind of connects with, and, her passion for space travel kind of uplifts the other students, and they all kind of work together towards their goal. And we learn about their home lives and their backstories and what brought them there and why they want to go to space, or why they want to be at this school just generally, because not all of them have the passion that she does or the reasoning that she does. And it's very sad. It is heartbreaking. It is beautiful. It made me cry many times, while also like giving me that uplifting feeling of coming of age stories that are just like, be you, do what your gut tells you, do what you believe in, take everybody else's criticisms with a grain of salt because you know yourself best. And, how do you move forward from tragedy? How do you take, all of those negative feelings of your life and channel them into your passion? It's really, really beautiful. It's very well done. By far my favorite thing I read this year. My favorite thing I've read in a very long time, honestly. And again, I think that there's something to be said about consuming something at the right moment. And like, this came at the right time. This story is what I needed when I was reading it. And I think that, not that I wouldn't have enjoyed it at any other time, because like I said, it is genuinely an amazing story. But it is very interesting to think about, like, if I had read this when I was 12, if I had read this when I was 18, but now reading it at, in my mid-20s, at a time when I just really needed something that was uplifting and positive to be, while at the same time, like, melancholic and sad enough to acknowledge sadness and pain, but to, twist it into passion and, moving forward and carrying those with you who, didn't make it to where you are. Just acknowledging those people that helped shape who you are, but maybe they're not around anymore. And how do you not take their lives and what they taught you for granted, and how do you uplift those feelings and turn it into something, productive and positive? And I just thought this was such a beautiful, beautiful story, and it is very much a shame that clearly it wasn't selling very well at the time, but I'm so grateful that, somebody at Vertical believed in it and enough to pump out the rest of it in omnibus volumes just to make sure that it was fully released. I believe you can buy it digitally. Like, I think that it is available digitally. The artwork is so cute and charming and different, and the scenery is really beautiful. Obviously, there's the first volume, so by the end, the artwork is a bit different and more kind of defined and pronounced, but it's just so lovely. And I thought that, all these characters had very, redeeming qualities, but also kind of flaws in their personalities. And it was so good. I love stories about groups of people just kind of like complementing each other, coming together in a group and really, uplifting each other in different ways. And it's also, some people, again, going back to ping pong, some people are gifted and put the work in and things work out for them, and for others, sometimes you put the work in and it just doesn't work out for you. And it's frustrating and it's sad, but it's also a reality of life that not everybody gets everything they want. And that sometimes hard work does not equal output that you were looking for. Sometimes you're still second best or 10th best or not even on the scoreboard. But yeah, it's definitely the best thing I read this year, and I highly recommend, if you can get your hands on it, absolutely get your hands on it. Or just buy it digitally and read it that way, because it's a really, really good title. So that's it. That's my top 10 for 2021. I'd like to know what your top 10 is, or, your top 2, 3, 1, whatever. What's some of the favorite things that you read in 2021? Do let me know. I'd love to hear it. Thank you for watching. And let's see, I guess, what 2022 brings.